time going through John Wick and getting all these screenshots of the movie to go through the whole story, and they were all black squares because algorithmically you can't do it. So I'll go through some important plot points of what it is. There's a ton of Illuminati secret society symbolism in it. Normally that's a red flag in movies because that means it's being subversive. But this movie is about that, and it doesn't glorify it. So John Wick, the moral of the story is a man is a fool who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Okay, John Wick knows the value. John Wick is a haunted man. John Wick is damned. But he fell in love. So John Wick is a assassin. They call him the boogeyman, Baba Yaga. He worked for the Russian mafia type secret society thing with this Council of 12, very Illuminati, very Freemasony stuff, which is very real, by the way. Some of these old buildings in New York, and he got out because he fell in love with a girl, and he did the impossible mission to get out. And because he's the best killer there is, and these mafia, the head of the crime syndicate, they all respect him. You know, they're like, John Wick once killed 3 men with a pencil. John Wick. And he falls in love, and he climbs out of hell. And his wife then dies of cancer. And as he's mourning his wife, he gets a present delivered, and it's a dog. And it's a letter from his wife saying, I know I'm gone, John, but, you know, here's a dog. Like, remember me with this dog. You know, you need company. You're not okay alone or whatever. And he weeps and he mourns. And he's a killer. His skill, his gift for this world is taking life. He's the Grim Reaper. And he was part of this society that does not operate under jurisdiction. It doesn't operate under any part of society, just like the real Illuminati. And but there's many rules. This is one thing. Evil has rules. It isn't just random chaos. There is an element of chaos in certain types of evil, but this regimented Illuminati secret society, Rothschild, you know, Vatican, like these big power secret things have just an unbelievable amount of rules. I know that for a fact, that a lot of these high-level people in these worlds are the biggest slaves there are. Because the higher you go, the more you can't move in the pyramid until you're just like, you know, so wealthy, but you're just a slave. So Wick gets out. And then as he's just filling up his tank, mourning his wife, who he did the impossible amount of killing to get out of the system, these young punks, the son of the head of the mafia, is just filling up his tank. And they're like, hey, we like your car. And Wick is like, it's not for sale. And they're like, everyone has a price. He's like, I love this car, or whatever. And so they break into his house and they kill his dog and they steal his car. And so that is the moment that the movie begins, where he sledgehammers the concrete to get his gold coins, because this secret society doesn't operate with currency. It's just single gold coins, and they're worth exactly 1 life. And they operate with blood oaths, and they operate just within society but outside society, just like they really are, right? So when the head of the mafia finds out that his son has stolen John Wick's car and killed his dog, he starts beating his son. He's like, that is John Wick, you moron. And he has fear and admiration simultaneously, because the two souls, the head of the mafia and John Wick, are tied. They're both damned men. And the entire mafia power in this crime family came from the bodies that John Wick killed to get out, right? So there's this very interesting and cinematic and archetypal fear, love, admiration, and hatred towards one character, and it's all justified. You know, sometimes movies will force this stuff, but this was the boogeyman. And someone was like, oh, John Wick's the boogeyman? He goes, you hired John Wick to kill the boogeyman. And so this guy calls up John Wick and he's like, let's be civilized people. He's like, well, let's not go to war. Let's be civilized men. Another underlying thing of the whole series is this over-the-top civility in their words and actions, but constant killing. That these demons are desperately trying to be civilized. You know, it's like, without rules, we live with the animals. So they have these rules, and so he calls, he's like, you know, let's be civilized. And Wick doesn't say a word. He just hangs up. And the mafia head's right-hand man is like, what did he say? And he just goes, enough. And he goes, send the crew. So they send 12 men to kill John Wick. John Wick, and the choreography, the tactical choreography is so good. It's like how people actually shoot guns in Navy SEAL room entries and stuff like that. They use a Benelli M4, Glock, AR-15. Like, it's really kind of tactical porn for people who like guns. And so he kills all of them, and then the cops come, and the cop knocks on the door, and John Wick opens, and he goes, hey, John. He goes, no, noise complaint. He goes, noise complaint. And he looks, and he sees all the dead bodies everywhere, and he goes, you working again? He goes, no. Good night, Jimmy. He goes, good night, John. And you realize that these people are not under the jurisdiction of the police at all. And it was just this very basic conversation. So then John calls the body snatchers and pays them 12 coins to get rid of 12 bodies. And they're all very polite. And so now John has to avenge his dog and his car. He just goes on a killing spree. You know, he has to take down this entire organization, which is unbelievable fight scenes, to get to the kid, to kill the kid. And he finds out where the head mafia guy keeps all his stash. And it is in a church, right? So he goes in and he burns all his money, all his art, all his blackmail stuff. And the guy spirals. You know, it's like he used the chicken, because the mafia guy used his son to bring in Wick into his fortress to try and kill Wick. And so Wick does that with his vice, with what he wants, what he covets, which is his money and his paintings and his blackmail and all that. So the head mafia guy exposed himself, and Wick loves it. He's burning the money, and he's like, he has no interest in the money. And that's what makes him dangerous. He's outside of the hierarchy. He doesn't value what these people value. And so one of the scenes is they go, it's just a dog. And he was like, and Wick just starts, the head mafia guy was like, it was just a dumb dog. And he goes, that dog was sent to me by my wife and allowed me to mourn. And he just starts like yelling. He's like, and he took it from me. And like, he's tied up, you know, surrounded by hitmen without any fear at all. And knowing he's going to kill everybody. And he's like, give me your son or die next to him, screaming. And they put a plastic bag over his head. And, you know, he gets out of it. But the moral of the story is, the price of everything, the value of nothing. So the price of a dog is free. You can get them at pounds, but the value of that dog is priceless. You know, that's one reason why LA people don't understand me at all, because the price of, you know, I'm currently selling my condo in LA. The price is so inflated. It's unbelievable what they say we can get for it. I still don't buy it. And I have to pay a monster capital gains tax, but that's my price out. You know, I could use that, avoid capital gains, and buy another property immediately. I want out. Whatever tax I have to pay to get that to go to goat, farm, unauthorized, you know, my kid's future, stuff like that, I'll pay the piper. I'm out of this debt mortgage game, all that stuff, right? So my condo is valued at, I don't even want to tell you guys because it's so absurd. I think it's worth about $5,000. I'm dead serious. Like, knowing now what I know about Ursa Manor, which my house, this land, is a fraction of what my condo is priced at. But the value, $5,000. It's a 1,200 square foot condo in the middle of West Hollywood. It has multiple levels, great. But, you know, outside is a man shitting, or, you know, the cops have rainbows on their cars. The whole city is just run on lies and sickness and derangement. You know, the traffic is nonstop. There's no water. You know, the skies are crisscrossed with chemicals. $5 grand. I think that's what it's worth. Just like in John Wick, his dog, the value, he would die, he would do anything to revenge. Now, this is the moral, the real moral of the story. And this is why I think Hollywood allowed this in, because it promotes revenge. You have to understand, though, John Wick never gets out of hell because he keeps engaging with it. And that's the deep meaning of this movie. And, you know, I wouldn't be capable of being a good Christian in moments like that. Like if someone hurt my family, mountain of skulls. But that's a sin. I know I work on this shit a lot. You know, violence isn't a sin. Protecting yourself, killing the wicked, not sins. But like, what he does in that movie is he re-engages with hell. So he gets out, and then he's drawn back in through every action he makes. The way out, it's kind of like my way out was leave LA. You know, they threatened me with taking money. I'll show you, I'll give you a perfect example of what they do to me every day. This is what happens to me every day. Ready? I made, like, I was like this, and then my YouTube went, boom. And in 1 month, 2 months, I made close to $50,000 from super chats, from memberships, all that. They took it all back, and they demonetized me. And every single day, when I go to my creator studio thing, it shows me, you know, every day they take back another 1,000 every day, 800 this day, 1,200 this day. And I'm not paying to be on here. It's just from originally what I had, they take it back every day. You know, that used to say your estimated revenue for the last 28 days or whatever would be like $30,000 or $35,000, and then they took it all. So they gave it to me and then took it back. I didn't get the money. I never will. It's fine. So they do that to get you to pursue and to say, okay, I'll stop saying what I believe, blah, blah. When you know the value and not the price, that's when you're free. And so John Wick took the wrong path. He did not take the Christian path. It's good revenge porn. Great flick. A lot of good archetypal truth in it. But when you make that mountain of skulls, you realize he's back in. Then there's John Wick 2. And the reason I really like the series is it's believable. You know, I never liked 007 because he's like shaken, not stirred. It's like, dude, you have every STD and you've been shot. Just drink vodka. It's just like there was something effeminate about 007 that I could never put my finger on. And he was just fucking strangers and everything. Like John Wick, there's subtle implications that he used to be with a lot of women. You know, like the bartender would be like, John, it's so good to see you. I'm so sorry about your wife. And she was like, I've never seen you like this. And John's like, what? And she's like, vulnerable. And he had an awakening through love. And he has no interest in these women anymore. Now his love became hate. It became revenge. You stab the devil in the back, you know, you best not miss. And it's just a very cathartic movie watching revenge. But the deep meaning of the movie is when you go on a path of revenge, dig 2 graves. One for yourself, you know, because he's back in. And then John Wick 2, he now that he's back in, he has to kill one of his former friends. And there's no way out of it, you know? And now he's back to being a slave in the Illuminati pyramid. And that the Abraham story of when God orders Abraham to kill his son, and then Abraham's willing to do it, and then God says, you don't have to. You know, that was a test. I've saved your son. That's the most haunting part of the Bible, because what it's saying is you have to keep your covenant no matter what, or else they own you. And there's a scene in John Wick 2. Like, I wouldn't be capable of that. But that's out of the covenant. I know my weaknesses. You know, I think about this stuff all the time, because in John Wick 2, one of the most powerful women there is that he's hired to kill, she has this meeting with this African, you can tell he's like an African dictator, and he's like, you know, you took our land, and she was like, your people gave it to us. And he goes, with a knife to their throat, and she goes, it was to their children's throat. They were just supposed to watch. And you realize that capitulating, they lost everything and now they're owned. That when evil uses any attachment to get your soul, they'll squeeze. And it's fucking haunting, dude. Like I would just, those are my breaking points. Is family stuff, you know, that's Mountain of Skull stuff. Because at that point, I would take my own damnation, and that's a weakness, you know. Like when you watch John Wick, you're like, everyone has that wick in them, where it's like this power structure within the structure, you know, this invisible society, this Illuminati society that only exists with coins and all these rules. Like there's this one hotel where you're not allowed to kill anyone in the hotel because without rules, we sleep with the animals, John, you know? And it's like...
I'll back you up. I'll back you up.
I don't know. I got to think a lot more about this movie. But it's... when you engage in that, you're right back in. But in those moments, like let's say that happened to me, not the dog thing, but let's say like someone really did something like that. I would almost be like, I'll take hell. I have to kill these people. But it's wrong. Like there's another level of, like the Amish, for example. Okay, the Amish are impervious to false flags. That's why the Amish, I call them the Illuminamish. They can't be tricked into giving up their existence. Like they, you know, who knows who did it, but they had a shooting in an Amish school in order to take over and scare everybody, blah, blah, blah. And the Amish were like, would you like to help us erect a barn? Those people are in heaven now. And that lack of fear and that complete covenant made it so they didn't get taken over. You know, like this one guy kidnapped and raped and killed an Amish girl, and the Amish had him try to erect a barn with them. They're like, you're a wicked man, but we have a barn to put up. And when you think about that commitment, I do not have that ability. I just don't. But when you watch what all these false flags and what all these temptations and what all these things do to our nation, in the end, the deaths will be in the tens or hundreds of millions. You know, the loss of family, all the broken homes, the amount of death and destruction that comes from breaking your covenant is so mind-blowing that I get why the rules are the way they are, but they're unfathomable to me. And that's why John Wick is revenge porn, but the logos of it, the archetypes, the morals of it are remarkably legit for a Hollywood movie. And I'm very excited about John Wick 3. And Keanu Reeves in real life lost a baby. Like, he's a haunted dude. Someone pointed out that he gives all his money to like children's hospitals and stuff because he has a real weight on him in real life. Like that his wickedness was part of the death of his own child. And so he's always calling out. That's why some of the best actors are cast as something that is in them naturally. And so that's why Keanu Reeves has this look about him, you know, whether it's Constantine or Matrix or John Wick, where it's like, I've done some horrible things. I want to make it right. And I'm sure I will end up in hell. And it's a fascinating movie. So I'm glad. I like to talk about random movie stuff. I'm going to get out of here soon. I got more to do. But this Navy SEAL was talking about, that I was watching this Vigilance channel. He's great. He's just training Wick for this new thing. He's talking about how when you go into like a door corridor, he called it like the death tunnel or something. Like you have to, even if it's like hitting someone with your gun because you don't want to stop your buddies from coming in behind you, because when you're in a corridor, you know, you're all dead. And one important thing he said is, he's like, once you make a plan, commit to it. Like in the middle of it, don't like improvise, because it's so scary and so violent and loud and chaotic that once you go. Trust the plan. You know, that's why I support Trump despite his lack of coming through on certain campaign promises, his bizarre alliance with Israel, all this stuff. It's like, he's my president. And that's it. And bad things will happen. It's like a marriage. President isn't like a marriage because I don't love the president. But it's like there's times that me and Amy have had real dark times, big fights. And it's like we made a plan and we don't break that plan. And that's why I highly, highly recommend you reconnect to God and Christ. Because if not, you will have false idols. You will think that a human being can save you. You will think you will be lost and in chaos and stuff and have no way out. And it's true. And it's a way to deal with the pain and sin of this world. It's a way to forgive yourself for what you are. We all have a John Wick in us. We all have an animal. You know, part of me deserves to sleep with the goats. I am an animal full of rage and lust and sloth and covet. Like we all are. We're part animal. We're fallen. But Christ died so that we can be saved. And without that, you know, you're taking a little extra from Home Depot. You know, you start getting bad habits. You don't speak the truth. And what happens is long-term self-wizardry. Then you can't think properly. Then you get tricked easily. Look at how easily people are being tricked now. Like my generation, 38, we had a weird relationship with Christianity because of churches and stuff. But we had enough. We had enough in the media where people still prayed at dinner at certain TV shows and stuff. The young dudes, with the exception of some, you know, some are snapping out of it. Like the Nick Fuentes generation, I have some faith, I have some hope for those guys. But like, they don't have any of it. So they're so easily tricked. Where just the scientist becomes the priest. And, you know, according to science, and then they'll contradict themselves and lie and steal. But people are so out of logos that they don't have another option but just to believe them. Because if they didn't believe them, they wouldn't be able to function. And the most reasonable explanation for existence is a creator. Nothing doesn't create something. Your eyeball does not come from sexual selection. It's not possible. You know, the way that, and you can't think properly unless you have logos. That's why atheism and not agnosticism. Some of agnostics are, they have logos and they're responding to their upbringing with church lies and manipulation and blasphemy. You know, taking the Lord's name in vain is saying, Jesus told me you're wrong, I'm right, give me money. Like that shit used to drive me crazy to the point where I hated Christianity because what was presented to me wasn't Christianity. It was a pyramid scheme. But yeah, check out John Wick. It's a good way to see what is in you as far as revenge and violence and redemption and love and secret societies and all that, and how when you stare at the abyss too long, the abyss stares back. And one of the reasons I'm living my life the way I am with constantly building, constantly growing, it's the only way I could get out permanently. I couldn't get out by just saying I was out. I couldn't get out by just praying. I couldn't get out by secretly supporting things in public. I had to literally get out by saying, if you take all my money, I won't starve. If you take my name, my family still knows my name. Like, I will go to where Amy is the most happy and we can have a life of joy. You know, it's like that was my way to not stay in LA and just, I had a John Wick path. I think that's one reason why I relate so much to the movie. Where when I was still in LA that last year, like even on stage, I would just mock these people. You know, if I was still there, I would be like, look at Joe Rogan. He's 3 inches tall. It's a Chinaman's limp. And I have enough charisma, talent, and just basic, just invisible authority about me where I would still have stage time. They only took down my picture at the Improv and blasted me and all that after I was gone for 2 years. When I was still there, I could have John Wick that thing and just every night been on the Improv, been on stage being like, Joe Rogan takes dicks in his asshole, and I would write a song about it. I'd get a sing-along going. Guess what? I would still be there. I could point out the hypocrisy of all the comedians. Talk about how Muslims aren't allowed to go down on Amy Schumer because she's a pig. Point at her right in the room. I'd still get stage time. I would have. That's a John Wick path. You want to know what I wouldn't have? I wouldn't have a life where I wake up with my family and we milk the goats so we can have fresh milk for the coffee, and my wife's making eggs and muffins, and my son is telling me all about what he's going to do today with his train set, and I'm learning about root structure and building and all this. Like, I would still be in there. So when people say, like, oh, you're so obsessed with Joe Rogan, all you do is talk. No, I'm not. He's a punchline. It's funny. It's what I do. I'm a comedian. The John Wick path would be me staying in LA and standing on those stages every night, looking at them and just mocking them all and getting the crowd to go, ah, because they wouldn't be able to stop it. But what would that make me? John Wick. I'd be in hell. I'd open my door every day and I would see someone shitting on the street. I would worry that my wife and children would be assaulted by an illegal that would never end up in the books. When currency fails, which it inevitably will, and there's a water shortage, the amount of chaos and death would cause me a tremendous amount of anxiety, and I'd be in hell. And so John Wick never left hell. He was just really good at killing demons, All right, unauthorized.tv. If you appreciate this and you have a little extra cash you want us to throw towards my new barn, paypal.me/feedthebear, hugepianist.com for my past specials, or if you want to just become a donator or whatever. And if you don't, it doesn't matter. I'm only saying this because it's the only way that I make a living, but never feel any guilt or responsibility. If you truly are in a tight spot, or you're like building your family, or you're buying a house, don't give me shit. I got a sauna.